Let's move on to paper now, because I do want to educate you on how the paper. Have you ever gone into the store and you're just amazed? What paper do I buy? I just want to draw, right? You've got hot press, cold press, rough. You've got textured paper. You've got small paper, big paper. Paper that's for watercolors, paper that's for drawing, paper that's for painting. What's good to paint on? What's good to draw on? Well, we're talking about drawing, and believe it or not, this is my favorite paper to draw on. Arches watercolor paper. Yes, it's watercolor paper, but it's hot pressed. That's the key. Most watercolor artists like cold pressed, but you're going to find out that a lot of professional illustrators that draw a lot or illustrate for pieces of fine work or for publication want to put their illustration on hot pressed watercolor paper. It's very durable. It's thick. This is 140 pound, by the way. That's another thing I want to talk about. Is you go in there and it's like, what does that mean, that poundage thing? What's 50 pound? What's 90 pound? What's 140 pound? Well, naturally, the higher the poundage, the thicker the paper. But I'll tell you what that's based on. If you take 17 inches by 22 inch sheet of paper and you take 500 of those, which is called a ream, and you weigh that, that's the weight of the actual paper. That's a standard, usually 17 by 22 inches. The thickness they make it, they put 500 sheets together at that size and they weigh it. That's how much the poundage is. So since this is 140 pound, 500 sheets of this at 11 by 17 weigh 140 pound. So that's the idea of the poundage. That's where that comes from. The other thing is get acid-free paper. Don't really get the cheap stuff, because if you make a masterpiece and then it turns yellow in several months, you're going to be really disappointed. Get something that says acid-free on it. Most watercolor papers are acid-free, especially this type here. It's a little bit on the high end, but believe me, it's well worth it. And it's durable, it'll last forever, and you're going to find out that this type of paper works a lot smoother than some of the cheaper brands. What else is out there? Tracing paper. Believe me, I work with a lot of tracing paper. What's nice about this is you got to pick up a pad of tracing paper. It doesn't matter what brand. The main purpose is that if you're up here and you're drawing, and you're drawing with the soft pencils, they'll smudge. So what you do is you put this tracing paper under your wrist and you get in the areas that you need to draw without damaging the rest of your work. And yet you can see through it to find out where you need to go to move your paper. It's kind of, tracing paper is mostly slick, so it won't affect the surface of your drawing. It's very handy. It's a nice technique I want to pass on to you guys, is to get tracing paper to help protect your work when you're working on it.